Hi, I'm Mike Ryan. Recently, when I was scrolling through Facebook, I came across a photo of some turquoise that was called Blue Ridge. Now, as readers of Turquoise in America Part 2 know, the Blue Ridge claims are associated with Orville Jack, are in Crescent Valley, Nevada, and are more commonly known as Orville Jack turquoise. And you can read all about that story in Turquoise in America, Part 2, 1910 to 1990. So that piqued my interest, and I followed up with the person who had posted this, and then followed up with the trader who had sold them this turquoise. And I found that it was not associated at all with the old Orville Jack claims, but was a product that was coming out of sterling turquoise. It was enhanced turquoise coming from Capitos claims in Mexico and being marketed as Blue Ridge. And this trader who had bought this from sterling turquoise, which is sterling fouts using the Zachary process of enhancement, kept saying that these claims were in southern Arizona. Well, it's southern Arizona, 30 miles south of the border of Arizona and Mexico. So that made me start to think a little bit about some claims in southern Arizona, turquoise claims, that are not associated with the large copper mines like Morenci, Bisbee, and then a little bit further north we have Sleeping Beauty, and of course way up north there's Kingman. So we really don't have a lot of individual claims. There were a number of individual claims from southern Arizona in Cochise County that we talk about in Turquoise in America Part 1, Great American Turquoise Rush, 1890 to 1910. And those were all near the old mining town of Cortland. And you can read about that in Part 1. But in more recent times, we just don't have individual claims of turquoise in southern Arizona, except in one instance. And I'd like to read to you a little bit from Turquoise in America Part 3. And this is the stories of turquoise, 1990 to 2020. And I want to read a story from Philip Chambliss, who you know as my writing partner for Parts 1 and Part 2. But he's also a turquoise miner. He says, Ron Alexander got in touch with me about a turquoise stabilization operation he had in southern Arizona and Mexico. I was living in my cabin in the Zuni Mountains at almost 8,000 feet, so it made sense to go to Nogales, Arizona in the wintertime. Andy Brown was involved in that operation also. Z. Haag, H-A-A-G, was a mineral dealer out of Tucson and was operating a mine outside of Patagonia, Arizona, and pulling out chalk turquoise that Ron Alexander was stabilizing. When Ron first looked at that turquoise, he thought it was too porous and not a high-grade chalk. You know, chalk turquoise comes in various different grades, and your stabilization process is going to be determined by that grade. So generally speaking, the lower grades require epoxy treatment, probably with some color added. Then as you get into a little higher grades, you can use an acrylic treat, which is what Ron Alexander is well known for. And then the higher grade turquoise, much of that is going to be enhanced with the Zachary process. The soft porous chalk would have been a problem, but Ron had developed a really sophisticated block press for making compressed block turquoise, and the sponginess ended up being an asset because it all smooshed together to make a homogeneous block, and then it was stabilized. A lot of that Patagonia was made into block. So Philip goes on to explain more about the later developments of the Patagonia turquoise, his involvement there, the Patagonia turquoise, and then more recently, who's had those claims. So that's really the story of Patagonia turquoise in southern Arizona. And I think now everybody would like to look at some Patagonia Turquoise. Here we see some Patagonia Turquoise. And as Philip said in his story of turquoise, from Turquoise in America Part 3, the Patagonia was really first known for creating this stabilized, pressed turquoise that took the porous, spongy chalk and then compressed that in a block press and then stabilized it. And we see an example here of that sort of turquoise. And it's really kind of pretty. It's got this kind of swirly pattern, but it really does stand out as stabilized turquoise, much in the same way when you see the purple turquoise and all the rest of this turquoise. It usually has some sort of marketing name associated with it that has been compressed. It's had color added to it. Oftentimes it's had other minerals, spiny oyster, other things compressed into it. Can be very pretty, popular in the turquoise, but it's a long way from being natural. Now, almost all that turquoise was natural, but in 2022, I was at the El Dorado show at Indian Market, and I met with Randall Marchese, and he had bought some natural turquoise from Rick Harris, who has those claims now. And here we see some examples of that natural Patagonia. Now you can kind of see here, it's really a lot greener to my eye than what we're really showing here. This is showing it as more blue, but these items here, these pieces all here, all have a real greenish hue to it. Really, really quite pretty with a spider web pattern. Then we see down here these that are showing more blue in the photo than they actually are. They're a little bit more of a blue-green color, but again, very, very beautiful natural turquoise. So you can find natural turquoise. It's out there, even in areas that are mines that are more closely associated with treated turquoise. That's true of Mexican turquoise, because these Patagonia claims are just really very, very close to the border with Mexico. So it's out there. You just have to look for it. Certainly you're going to pay a premium for it, but for true turquoise lovers, you can't beat the natural.